Today I got to take a little break from the normal sort of car building stuff and work on something very urgent, which is the lift. It's got a giant leak. So without a lot of extra talking, this is going to be how to fix the hydraulic leak in a Max Jax made by Danmar. So my seal kit came from this company, Lazar's HCRC Now. Check with them if you're not sure which kit is appropriate for your model Max Jax. There are some differences. Email them. They can help you find the right kit. They have my serial number, and this is what they recommended. Each cylinder uses 2 seals, and one of them is kind of a dust seal, doesn't really hold the weight of the car. The primary one is this big green one, and it's very important that you replace both. This one is the important one, so make sure you stick around for the whole video because this one is definitely tricky to get installed. And also stick around because I'm going to be giving you some general maintenance and safety tips on the Max Jax specifically. This super clean floor absorbent should help kind of pick up this mess. And if it's okay if it goes a little bit down in the holes because I want to clean out the oil in there too, those are epoxy anchors. And so I don't want those to be compromised with this hydraulic oil. Practically fixes itself. This bar has to come off. We want to slide this all the way up to the top or close to it. This is the hydraulic cylinder that we need to remove. And so the hydraulic fittings are just on the opposite side of that. We need to screw them out from here to be able to take that ram out. So 7/8 wrench. Now it's loose enough to where we can just pull it straight out. If you get that oriented, kind of pointing 90 degrees to the cylinder, then it just lifts out. So now let's put this block across here, and then we can take it off the rest of the way. Just make it a little easier. There we go. See how the cylinder is just tilted up inside that hole right there? Now I think we can pull the cylinder all the way out and we can look for the seals. So we'll set that right here. And anything that wants to drain can just come out here. So we need like a spanner wrench. This has threads on it, so we need to unscrew that. This is where one of the seals is. This is like a lip seal or a dust seal. So I happen to have this spanner wrench that fits reasonably well in this hole. So this is from a Porsche toolkit. This is for the fan belt. And hopefully I don't break it, but that looks like it might work. I think that did it. It's a pretty light tap, got that off. I'm gonna put some gloves on. I don't think there's any springs in here, but we'll see. Didn't show any on the manual. Okay. And we just don't want to ding the surface of this. Okay, so that's the one seal. It's green in color. So it doesn't look bad, but it feels kind of hard. And then I believe we can pull this whole thing out. Okay, so this is the seal that really does all the lifting, is this one right here. So that's also in the kit to replace. This is the collar that we removed with the spanner wrench. It also has a plastic sleeve that's to kind of keep things centered. And then this is the rubber seal. So we only replace the rubber bits. Plastic bits should still be fine. And same on this side. This is a centering ring. It's plastic, and then this one's rubber. This one is rock hard though. I think this one's going to be the easiest to remove. So this one should just pry out. You can use, pry tools on this, but I prefer not to if we don't have to. Just lifts out like that. This is the orientation, so just set that right there. We'll take a look at the new kit. They do look very similar to me. So that looks correct. So what we'll do is we'll just use a paper towel and we'll just clean this out as best we can. Maybe a little bit of brake cleaner if you want, but mostly just get the seal area clean. Doesn't feel like it's contaminated or rusted or anything. Yep, I think that's good. And this is red rubber grease. You don't have to go overboard with this. Basically just a real light coating just to help with assembly. And that fits great. Then on this one here, I think we are going to need to use some pry tools. I don't think this whole thing is coming off. There is a snap ring down inside there, but I don't think that's going to pull this apart. So let's just pry this one off and see how we do. And which side the cup is on. Yeah, so that side is the cup. So let's try to just open this one up. And being careful not to gouge the surface. Just want to get underneath it. And pull it off or break it. Okay, so we'll keep track of the orientation of this one. This one has the open end of the seal was pointing down. So when we look at this one, we see it has an open end here, and I think that's going to point down. So let's compare the size, make sure we're doing the same thing. This one is flared out on the side closest to the end. So that orientation looks correct, the diameters look correct. We need to lube this up with a mixture of a little bit of rubber grease and also just hydraulic fluid, because this needs to go back on as carefully as possible. Can put a little tape on here, but ultimately we need to stretch it over, I guess. A little bit on the outside, a little bit on the inside. Okay, it is very reluctant to stretching over. So what I might do is remove I'm gonna take the tape off and I'm gonna remove this ring. This ring is not replaceable, so we don't wanna break it. But let's remove this and see if we can put the seal in this spot first and then lift it over to the following spot. So let's just see if that works. I'm gonna put this, that was like this, pointing that way. So I'm just wondering if this might be easier to go like this. Just stretch it over. Tough to get on. But this is all one machined thing. So I don't think this separates. I don't think this comes apart. So this is the only way to get it on. I'm wondering if I should heat it up in some hot water. It might just make it a little bit easier. Okay, now we got the seal. This is in some hot water. So I'm gonna try to slip it over both. We shall see. And then I'm also going to use this nylon strap. This is the lanyard that you like wear around your neck. So I'm gonna cut it into strips and I'm gonna use that to help lift it over. Oh, so close, so far. Okay, so this time I'm gonna go 2 straps. Okay, so got it over the first lip and it's, you know, got to go one more lip. So now these straps, I hope, will be my friend to lift it over the second lip. Let's see. Okay, so it jumped over to the second lip. Now we just have to pull the straps out, hopefully, without tearing anything. All right, now it's on there. That is correct, and you know, it has some movement to it. A little piece of the strap in there. All right, so that's gonna do it for the seal installation. So like I said, just keep this well lubricated. Make sure it gets down in behind that seal. This paper towel on the end of this pole here is just making sure this thing is squeaky clean inside. This being, you know, used indoors means it's really pretty clean. I'm looking at it with the flashlight and it's perfect. No scratching, no nothing. Also wiping down the piston or this rod. Some oil in the cylinder. And just reinstall. Be careful that you don't nick it on the threads as it goes in. So real steady. And try to keep it mostly centered as it goes in. as much as possible. And air comes out on this side, so make sure you're not covering up that hole with your hand. And then that's it. So then we can put the cap on, and that is also going to keep that centered in there. So we're going to douse this in oil too. Just like so. Make sure there's plenty of oil in there. Oil this up a bit, and here we go. So I have about a 5-inch long piece of tape here, and we just need to do like maybe 2 revolutions. We don't need to go crazy. And I'm going to leave that last quarter turn for after it's installed, because I want to be able to make sure it can get in. Okay, everything's in the correct position with the cylinder. I just need to go underneath and turn that fitting so it's 90 degrees so the coupler points up. There we go. So now that's pointing, roughly up. We can turn it maybe just a little bit more. We want to keep things clean and tidy. This has gotten a little dirty just from normal use. Okay, all the old hydraulic fluid that leaked has been cleaned up, and all the anchors have been inspected. There's no cracks or loose anchors. Everything is in good shape here. I've gone up and down with the lift a couple times and bled it in multiple places at the different heights. It's also important to make sure these pawls are working correctly, because what you don't want to happen is once your car's up on the lift, you don't want it swinging around. But it should drop down in there and lock, because if it doesn't lock, this arm could swing and your car could be slipping forward and back. It should clip in just like that. So now the arm is locked. The other thing it says in the manual is to grease the inner rails with a little bit of this white lithium grease, or general purpose white grease. There are some Delrin blocks in the hub there. And that just makes it run smoothly up and down when there's pressure on it. So I'm just brushing this in there. It's gonna get moved around a little bit, but just spread that out. And if you do get a little grease on this ram, we just wipe it off. It goes evenly, pretty even. When the lift is all the way down, these arms will pivot automatically, which is nice. But once it lifts up, those locks will engage. And then as soon as possible, use these bars as a safety precaution. If you're ever to lose hydraulic pressure, you don't want the car going all the way to the ground. So I like to stop it right here on the bars. It's a safety precaution, definitely want to use it. You know, now that we've taken this apart, we know that all of the car's weight is basically, or half of the car's weight is on this seal right here. This big green one is the one that does the sealing. So you're really trusting this rubber part with your life if you're underneath the car. So please, by all means, keep your seals maintained. Make sure you have everything well lubricated and inspected, and make sure you're using the safety bars all the time. Another thing to check in addition to these pawls is make sure the pins are fully inserted. You should see the pin sticking out the bottom. If it's not sticking out the bottom, then it's not in double shear and you're not going to be able to pick much up. So make sure these pins are all the way down. And now with the weight of the car on the lift, you want to basically look down here and make sure there's no oil or hydraulic fluid leaking in this area. Make sure the ram is not wet with stuff dripping down it. This looks like it's sealing just fine. There's a little bit of fluid on this side, but I know the fittings aren't leaking. That's just basically when I push the coupler on, a little bit of oil comes out. So I can wipe that up, but I know for a fact this is not leaking. Everything's nice and tight. And the same is true for this side. No leaks on the cylinder, no drips on the cylinder. So I think we got this problem solved. This side on the fittings, nothing leaking from the fittings. Everything here feels really dry to the touch. It's just a little bit left from when you disconnect the coupler. That's pretty normal. Every time you couple it or decouple it, a little bit of oil does pop out.